I mean, I know we brought Dr. Denise on, right? Dr. Denise?
So I wanted to bring Dr. D Nice in here. So Dr. D Nice, can you unmute yourself and just do your thing?
Okay. Hi, everyone. How are you all doing? Well, I saw Principal Cook on, I think it's Shaka Bar is the name of the Instagrammer. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have to reach out to him because I'm an internal medicine physician for over 20 something years. And I work with adults with high blood pressure, diabetes, heart attack, COPD, the usual things. But on the side, I'm an adolescent wellness specialist, which is I just teach high school and college age kids how to really take care of their bodies. And when I saw Principal Cook worked at a high school, I'm like, I have to reach out to him and see how I can help. Because like he was saying with our conversation, some of the stuff I was telling him, he was shocked about because as we look at, when I was in medical school over 20 years ago, diabetes type 2, we call that adult onset diabetes. That's what I learned it. They had to go in and change the name to type 2 diabetes because now we have kids. Yes, I will for sure. Yeah, now we have kids that are getting type 2 diabetes ever younger and younger. We have kids that are having high blood pressure. We know the obesity is up. And I was even telling Principal Akbar, they're young people having heart attacks. Young people as young as like 20 having heart attacks, maybe even younger. I haven't checked what the record is, but definitely as low as 20. That's ridiculous. These are people that's supposed to be out enjoying in the prime of your life and you're suffering from these diseases. And because of that, I felt that I needed to do something to help educate our youth just on the basic principles of wellness, because all these diseases that I mentioned, 80% of them can actually be prevented, meaning not happen at all. 80% can be prevented with just simple lifestyle things. And I actually came up with a curriculum that I teach them. I even throw in a little rap in my stuff, but I won't rap for y'all here. This is not the place. But I have a curriculum that I call FOUNT. It's F-O-U-N-T. Each of the letters stand for something specific. The F is for fuel. This is where I really teach people how to eat properly, the things to eat, the timing of what to eat, how much to eat. And that may sound simple to some of you, but a lot of people have no idea. Even people that you think would know, they really don't know the basic principles of how to fuel and feed their bodies. And the O is in FOUNT is for optimistic. That's where I talk about the mental aspect of wellness. Really, a lot of times when we look out, some of the things that we're talking about here, some of the stress that's just associated with living right now. And a lot of us, we don't really know how to properly manage our stress to prevent disease. And I really help the young people learn how to manage the stress and the uncertainties that will definitely come with life. And the U is for understanding, where I really teach how to understand how your body works. Just some basic anatomy and physiology that we all should know how our body works, how our communication with other people, how that affects our health. There's a statistic out there that if your friends are overweight, it's very likely that you could be overweight. If you hang around unhealthy people, it's very likely that you're going to be unhealthy. And even understanding how situations can affect your health. We've talked about how some of these communities where kids are just, they're going to school hungry. How are you going to learn when you're hungry? You know, and how are you going to be expected to achieve when just the basic needs of life? But so really understanding how situations and societal things can affect health. And then the N in FOUNT is for natural. This is where I talk about the usual things, avoiding the alcohol, the drugs, and but we also talk about some natural remedies, things as simple as going out and getting some sunlight. Right now, a lot of us are stuck in front of the computer, not understanding how important the sunlight is to us just being alive, and fresh air and water, something as simple as water, what an important role it plays in our body. There's a doctor that wrote a book that it says, "You're not sick, you're thirsty." How a lot of us, we just don't replenish our fluids enough. And so that's the N in FOUNT. And then the T in FOUNT is for time. This is how you use your time towards being healthy and well. And that's where I talk about exercise and sleep and relaxation. So that's the entire curriculum. And I actually can use that same format to teach young people. I use it to teach young athletes how to perform better on the field. I use it to teach young people how to manage their depression and anxiety. I use it to teach them how to lose weight, and also just general wellness, how to really care for their body. So that's it in a nutshell. If anybody had any questions for me, I'll be open to do that, answer any.
Well, Dr. D. Nice, one of the things going back to what we have been discussing again is that these food lines at schools are growing. These food lines at churches are growing. These food lines where anybody is giving out food is growing. And I think what I want us to be able to walk away with today is some possible solutions and suggestions as to how and where families, principals in particular, can help families be directed to. You know, one thing that they have in their possession is actually their school, and they can do so much at their school. And I think it is heartbreaking to know that some kids will come to school hungry. And, you know, let's put all that materialistic stuff to the side. We're talking about just basic essentials. And so the thought of, you know, kids not eating properly that leads to some of the illnesses is one thing, but kids just not eating, period, leads to some other issues as well. Do you want to just kind of touch a little bit more on that and how we could, what are some things that principals and people in the room should be thinking about doing to address these issues in our communities? Because they are prevalent in probably 95 to 100% of the principals in this room to their community that they represent.
Can y'all hear me? I live a little bit out in the country, so the Wi-Fi can be questionable at times. You know what? That is a huge question that a lot of people are trying to ask. And really, when I look at it from my perspective, I live in the country, and I work way in a very remote, rural area, one stop sign town, where some of the same things that you're dealing with in the heart of the city is happening in this country. I work for a federally qualified health center where they get federal dollars to really take care of the health needs of the community. And even out there, you're having those issues. There's one grocery store for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles, and not, so when you look at it, I really feel a lot of it boils down to what Principal Akbar is doing, or Principal Cook, is just the individual person, each of us taking a responsibility and understand that when we are, I have a friend that she uses the term, your time, talent, and your treasure. We can't sit back and wait for somebody to do things for our community. We have to do something. Each individual person needs to understand that. I don't know how spiritual you all are, but if you all are religious people or Christians, the Bible tells us the poor will always be among us, and part of our responsibility is to help. And so as an individual, if every individual was take it as their responsibility to help somebody close to them and not wait to just write a check and send some off, really just encouraging people, every individual, to help as much as they can. And that's, I mean, I know that's a pie in the sky, very big thing to think about, but I really feel just putting effort into engaging as many people into helping as possible.
No, and I think, you know, I mean, it's really not as, as pie in the sky as you may think, Dr. D. Nice, because once again, I think when we get distracted by the silliness that goes on around us in our schools, like we may forget how powerful we are at being able to change a community. And so when you're constantly dealing with, idiotic decisions that are being made that are hurting rather than helping, it really is about us saying to ourselves, we can actually make the change that we're talking about. I mean, whether it's Akbar, whether it's Simone, whether it's Otto, whether it's, Rochelle, regardless, whether it's April, ideally, all it is recognizing that we had poverty issues before the pandemic. It's logically going to be a hell of a lot more and a hell of a lot, more extensive now than it was then. So it's us saying that if we weren't doing enough then, we weren't doing anything then, we need to start doing something now. Because when I'm talking about Otto's schools in East New York, I work with about 5 schools in that area. So if it impacts his, it's definitely impacting everybody else's around him. So I definitely don't think it's as pie in the sky as you think. I want, principals to recognize that the adjustments and the changes that we're talking about can be made just by saying, we got a problem here, and this is how we gonna fix it.